Hey everybody, welcome back to Beauty for Ashes, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Sandra and I'm your host. Welcome to Beauty for Ashes. Before we continue, I ask that you like, share, and subscribe so that when we go live, you can get the notification, right? And so for those of you who have been around since we started, you know that we have been talking about Isaiah 61 verse 3, right? Which is the promise of restoration that God has given us, right? And if you are anywhere on social media, if you go to a church, you will know that it's practically everybody is talking about restoration. Even though things seem a little crazy right now, the body of Christ is talking about restoration. And so the Lord gave me this message to put out there. Since last year, I struggled with it a little bit, but I have been obedient for the past several weeks. And so today I just want to continue the talk about purpose, right? Because so many people struggle with identifying their purpose. Last week, I did say I was going to link some scriptures. I did post the set of scriptures that will help you to identify your purpose. So I talked a little bit last week about how I was able to identify my purpose, but I want to go a little bit more into my story because a lot of people really don't know my story. Some of you may have heard a little bit because there is a separate video attached to this this channel when I spoke on a panel several years ago back in 2021. And so I come from a background of trauma, right? As a child, I had a traumatic childhood. First, there was molestation, then there was rape, and then I was physically abused. I lived through a lifetime of several years of physical abuse, right? And because of that, I didn't develop low self-esteem or anything. I like to say just God just kept me. But what the Lord did was he used that. And so I developed rage and anger, right? And so I fought a lot. I would curse people a lot. I was just always on the defense. And God used what I went through to push me forward to help others, right? And this is why you hear me say nothing that you have encountered will go to waste if you align yourself to God. So after I got saved, this was years after I got saved. Oh, by the way, Sunday is my 20th anniversary walking with the Lord. 20 years, y'all. Listen, I didn't even expect that I was going to last 20 minutes, but that's a different story. Yeah, the Lord really, after I started aligning myself with him, after I surrendered my life to Jesus and I just knew I needed God and I just started walking with the Lord, he then in 2018 put something in my spirit and he said, you know, he wanted me to do a women's conference. And I was like, wait, what? Me? And so we started having this conversation, and in me having the conversation, he was giving me instructions. But remember last week when I said before that in 2009, he told me to go back to school, right? So I went back to school, got the master's, and now I was working as a therapist when he said to do the women's conference. And so just to really not get into too much detail, had I not been walking with God and having my ears connected to his mouth, I would not have recognized my purpose. So I did what the Lord told me to do. I started the conference, and we did a host of conferences, which I'm getting ready to really start back up again. But the conferences are going to be on a different it's going to be a different type of conference. The first conference was for us to help people who are sexually molested as children to be healed and delivered, right? This set of conferences is going to be about restoration, restoring people, right? And pretty much highlighting those that God has healed and delivered and is using or partnering, I should say, and they're doing great things for him. And so when I stepped out on faith, and God just began to do things in my life to align me with my purpose. Today, whatever he tells me to do, I do. Today, I have the nonprofit. It's called Break the Silence Global. I have 2 podcasts. One is called Break the Silence, and that one, you can find them on Spotify. That Break the Silence podcast, that one talks about all the mental illnesses that trauma cause. And I also have live guests on there whom I interviewed, right? So people talked about their trauma of being sexually abused or molested and how God delivered them, how God healed them. So I have that podcast. And then I have another podcast that is audio only for this, Beauty for Ashes. I have the Beauty for Ashes podcast, and that is also on Spotify. And then the Lord said, do the YouTube channel. And when I tell you I fought him. Why? I'm an introvert. I am very comfortable behind the scenes, right? I don't want the spotlight on me. I didn't want to be on camera. But then God kept, nudging, and I had to give in, kicking and screaming, fighting, kicking against the prick, but I gave in. And so now I'm here doing this. And this is just really to help people to know and understand that, listen, yes, you go through things in life, but you don't go through the difficulties that we go through in life is not just for nothing, right? It is to help other people. Right? And there are other things that the Lord has told me to do. There are a couple of other things that I'm not going to share here, but there are some big things, right, that God has called me to do. And I'm taking, the steps little by little. I'm taking the steps because I know that I have to do this because the Lord has given me this to do. Even though I have no experience in what he called me to do, I am totally terrified, right? But I know I heard him, right? I know I heard him. And you know what the Bible tells us? He does not call the equipped. Who he calls, he equips. So if you believe that, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. You're not the one that he called. He called people like Gideon, like Esther, like David, who were hidden. People like myself who really don't want to do it, right? Really don't want to be in the limelight. I'm fine just sitting in the back and worshiping my God. But it's people like us who he calls and said, listen, I have a great work for you to do. And so as I go forth, I understand that when I tell you guys, God is using every single thing that I've gone through, everything that I have gone through, right? To put me into my purpose. Every experience, like he is literally taking some experiences, allowed me to live things out, and then he would send me to go minister to someone concerning that same event that I just lived out, right? So I'm just letting you guys know that every one of us have a purpose. We were all sent to this earth with an assignment, and you will hear me say it over and over. We have an assignment, right? And do not be afraid. The enemy is when I tell you, I am not the person, I never thought, let's just put it like this, I never thought I was afraid of anything. But as I delve deeper into why I did not want to come on video, I realized it was fear. And I was like, what? Yes. And it's crazy because I was listening to the Called Women masterclass this week, and the woman of God who prayed, her name is Christy. She prayed Tuesday morning, I believe the second day. And that woman touched something, and she said, go back as far as you can and figure out where that spirit of fear came from. And I sat here and I said, God, tell me. I said, Father, where did that spirit of fear come from? Because I identified in myself that I was afraid of coming on camera, right? And I said, God, where did that spirit of fear come from? Because I did not, Sandra, afraid. I'm not afraid of anybody, but I do have a little fear. And I said, God, where did that spirit of fear come from? And the Lord took me back to when I was a child, to an incident. And it made me realize where the spirit of fear came from. Yeah. Somebody told me they were going to make me fear them. Right. And at the time, in my mind, I was like, I don't think so, but that's where it came from. That is where the spirit of fear came from. So it's like, I am afraid to do certain things, right? In case I get in trouble or in case it doesn't succeed or whatever. I'm just going to have to go deeper into that. But listen, the spirit of fear does not come from God. What does the Bible tells us? God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, right? So when we are afraid of doing anything, we know that that's not of God. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to be afraid, especially when God tells us to do things that we have no experience in. But guess what? He wouldn't be God if he told us to do something that we are experts at, right? So he's going to give you an assignment that makes no sense to you. He's going to give you an assignment that is difficult. And you know why he does that? Because he wants us to come back to him. We must go to him every step of the way and seek guidance, right? And so he's going to give us an assignment that lines up with our past, that lines up with our trials and tribulations, but we must seek him, right, for the guidance of how to do what we're supposed to do. So I just want to come on here today and let you know that whatever God told you to do, do it. Do it scared. Do it anyway. Even if you're afraid to do it, do it. Why? Because it is in the obedience that the blessing comes forth. Remember, when Joshua was leading the children of Israel over to the promised land, the water did not part until the priests put their foot. 1 foot, water parted. Next foot, water parted. Next foot, water parted, right? So the water does not part until you step out. So I just want to encourage someone today, step out on faith and go do your purpose. Go do what God has called you to do. And if you don't know what your purpose is, ask him, Father, what is my purpose? What did you send me on this earth for? But I do believe that every person listening to me today, watching this video, I do believe that God has already spoken to you and you know what your purpose is, right? Listen, guys, let us tear down the kingdom of darkness for God. There are people out there that need your gift, right? That need what you have. And so I have decided to just do what God told me to do. I have decided to do what God told me to do. And so, just do it. He's restoring us even better, because restoration doesn't mean going back to what you were. No, restoration means getting even better than you were before, right? And I remember when the Lord told me to do this podcast, he said, yes, they have been rejected and they have been abused and abandoned, but I am restoring them and I want the world to see the great things that they're doing for me. So get on out there and go do great things for God. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.